Um, Obviously, a quick turnaround. I've said that a lot this year. Third game here this week. In whatever it's been 5 or 6 days, I think everybody's experienced that. But it's something you're aware of as a coach. Indiana team that is really good, playing very well, and is especially really good at home. We've got a terrific home environment. Very difficult to play there, as all of us who follow college basketball know. They've got obviously a couple guys playing really well, and again, they're guys that when they came here last year really hurt us, and those guys are all back. So they've got a couple guys that I think are bona fide all conference type players, and we'll need to be ready to go. So hopefully we can have a good day of preparation today.
Chris, I know you've talked about, obviously, the day-to-day approach you've had really all season, but there was a time not long ago where it looked like if you guys had won this game, you would have clinched a share of the Big Ten championship. And I'm just curious, like, in general, how you view that goal in any season, not just this one. Like, if you have this sort of day-to-day approach, but obviously you want to get some stuff in the rafters too. So just how do you approach that goal of winning the league?
Well, obviously that's an outstanding accomplishment anytime you can do that, and to be able to do that is, something guys remember for the rest of their lives, because it's rare. It's rare to be able to do that, and I think that to position ourselves in a season like this to have a chance at that is pretty special. But it's an outstanding accomplishment, and I think you looked at our closing schedule, and I sensed that this was going to be a difficult road, but things can still happen, and what we have to worry about right now is what we can do.
And I know you guys did not really talk about it all that much, your positioning, but when you did sort of lose the ability to control your own destiny, did you sense anything with the guys, any kind of letdown in that regard?
No, not really. I mean, if it was, then I didn't sense it. Just because I think when you're going to play, 3 of your last 4 games are all on the road against teams in the upper half of your league. To really make any assumptions about, hey, this, if we do this, and this, and then we can get there. It's not, I think the focus did need to be and always needs to be on trying to prepare for the one in front of you and then see what's happened. It would have been a little bit presumptuous for us as a coach to get too much into that, given what we had in front of us. 3 out of 4 on the road against all upper half teams. That's a tough deal.
Looking at CJ's game the other night, and he hit, I think, 5 floaters in the lane.
Yeah.
I know that's something it seems like he struggled with all season. That was maybe the most effective he's been. Why? Is that something you've been working with him on, or was that just a good night for him, or how have you seen him work on that specific part of his game?
Combination of both. We do work on it in practice, kind of in the pre-practice part of practice. We'll work on shooting floaters over kind of a device we have, basically an extended arm. And our managers do that. And he's gotten, you're right. It's not something he's been especially efficient in, but he had it rolling the other night. His floaters were rolling the other night, so that was good to see. It was good to see him get in the paint.
Things like that are going for him. You talked about it. It's been kind of a tough stretch for him the last couple of games. How does that help a confidence? How does that help him going forward now to see some shots like that going down that haven't gone down all year?
Well, I think it certainly should help him. The biggest thing when you're a guy who's a college basketball player is, you cannot let a rough night or two lead into more rough nights, and let it affect your approach and your attitude and how you're progressing as a player. And because ultimately, if you do, it's going to be obvious. So I think for him, there's a toughness required to responding to kind of a difficult stretch in the course of a game, or a difficult stretch in the course of a conference season, and that's good players have that toughness. They just kind of keep coming, and they just keep their head up and keep their chin up and keep plowing along. And, Angela Duckworth calls it grit, and that's what it is. And good players have that.
Guards last year who put up a lot of points in this gym.
They did.
In your game this year, you shut them down really well. What were you guys able to do in the last game that was able to limit their points?
Yeah. They did miss some shots that you probably expect them to make at home a little bit more. I'd have probably felt a lot better if we'd have done it there. But they probably missed some shots. Now, they got rolling on us in watching the film from the year prior here. They really got rolling on our guards. I thought we did a better job defending them. We're a little more conscious of them. You got to expect that they're going to play with twice as much they played with good energy, but again, that was a quick turnaround for them after an emotional game. But we expect those guys to probably make more shots. What I think we did do well is we had pretty good awareness of them. Johnson in particular, because he is, we saw it the other day, he had 9 threes at Iowa, right? So he can really get it going. I've coached against him a couple times and always been really, really impressed with him as a player.
Too much about individual accolades, but we saw you the other night call Kata, Big Ten Player of the Year, and then he called you the Coach of the Year. Obviously don't care much about individual things, but to hear that from one of your players that you've only had for a couple months, what does that mean for you personally?
Well, that's a special comment that a young man makes. That he's a special kid. He's a special kid, and I do believe he should be that. And he was probably just trying to make me feel good. But that was nice of him.
If you ask the fan base, probably even the media, it's been a successful season no matter what happens. How do you describe it? Is that accurate? If it ended right now, is this a successful season?
Absolutely. But we've got work to do, and we've got a lot of challenges in front of us and a lot of fun stuff in front of us. But absolutely, I would never say anything other than that for this group and this team. I think it's been wildly successful, but we're hungry to do more and see what this group can be, and we have improvements to make, and I have to do a better job, and our players have to do a better job in a lot of areas, and that's what our focus is.
And when you get late in a season, guys' legs sometimes go. You've done this long enough, Kata. Yeah. How do you get through that? What can you as a coach do when guys are scuttling just a little bit?
Yeah, I think we've noticed it. His 2 free throws at Michigan. I think we all remember that. Like, I haven't seen him shoot, short all year like that. And he's carried such a heavy load for us. And Kata's a good athlete, but he's not an incredible athlete. Whereas JT, you look at him from the waist down, his legs being so strong, he's a more powerful athlete. And he's able to kind of play through force a little bit more. But I think as a coaching staff, and we've met on it the last couple of days, because I'm a little bit of a, full disclosure here, I'm a little bit of a grinder when it comes to practice. I like our guys to be hitting most practices, and we don't go 4 hours a day, but we're trying to work. So there's always that balance you're trying to find as a coach, and I think we're looking for the right balance with him right now.
Back to the guard conversation. Did you think you guys found something that maybe you were missing the last few games against Rutgers?
I think it was good for those guys to see, Cam coming back, making a few shots was good to see, because he had open looks against Michigan and he just missed them. So I think him seeing some shots go down is a good thing, and playing with aggressiveness. I think CJ the same way. But again, I don't. If those guys miss a couple shots tomorrow night, I don't feel like, hey, their confidence is zapped. I think they just got to continue to be aggressive and take good shots, and then if they do, we'll live with the results, whatever those are, as long as they're good shots.
what about handling that physicality? I mean, we've talked
Yeah.
about that a lot.
Yeah, I think we got to get better with that. I think because we're going to see that tomorrow. They did it to us here, and they'll do it to a way another level at home. So I do think we have to. Something we're going to try. It's this time of year. It's hard because you want them to feel that in practice to get better in that area. Yet at the same time, you want to be aware of the fatigue and the wear and tear on your guys. So that may be something that we get a little more into as we prepare for the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament, just trying to get better in those areas. We'll show it to them in film, and we'll talk to them about playing stronger with the ball. Again, CJ and Kata have both logged a lot of minutes for us, and they're slighter in their builds. So they just have to play with a little more force.
His familiarity with Indiana, obviously, and the history, and
Yeah.
he said that you probably do too. And I'm curious, from your time in the state and whatnot, what that program means to you, what you know of it, that kind of thing.
Well, it's an incredible basketball program, and incredible tradition. I think, I get, what people would define as blue bloods and not blue bloods, in today's college game, but it's certainly a program that's had, I don't know how many national championships, but multiple national championships and multiple Final Fours. And, they're a passionate fan base, and really passionate fan base. And playing against them, you get a real sense of that, when we played against them in the Crossroads, how passionate their fan bases are. And I thought Coach Green did a great job. I really did, and I'm sure Archie and his staff will do a tremendous job.
I know that you want all your players to be efficient, but Kata's efficiency is correlated to your team's success at a different kind of level. Do you sense at all him trying to force the issue, and because he is such a good shot maker and can make it in contested situations, does he have any more leeway to try to shoot his way out of it, or whatever you want to call it?
I think yes, he does have more leeway. Coaching secret here, your best players will always have a little more leeway. Sometimes it's hard for young players to understand, why does he get to shoot more and I get taken out when I turn it over? Okay, let me break this down for you right now. Okay. Let me be real specific about why we do that. We're trying to win, but he does. I think you earn that right when you perform like he's performed, to have a little more rope. He has probably forced some things, and he's got to be aware of that. I think that's something we've tried to talk to him in film about, understanding when traps are coming, when double teams are coming, being willing, when even a secondary defender's coming. It's not necessarily a double team, but when a secondary defender's coming on his dribble, like it's happened a couple times, he'll get better. He'll get better with that. He has gotten better with it. It's something we got to continue to try to coach him better on. And again, he's so coachable that he gets it.
Coach, the first time you played him, I want to say Jay Sean had 16 points and Caleb had 14. You guys were able to push it into the paint, maybe take advantage of a size or a bulk advantage. Is that where you start tomorrow, and do you envision them coming up with something to counter what you were so successful with the first time?
I'm sure they will. Every team will make some adjustments, and I expect them to make some adjustments. But I'm sure they also look at their game here and say, hey, they missed some layups around the rim that they normally make. And again, there was probably a fatigue element too. I think that our shooters need to be ready to shoot, make plays, and be aggressive. Our interior guys need to be ready to attack. That's kind of the way we'll always play. We want balance in our offense, so we don't want it to be just focused on throwing the ball inside or just focused on perimeter shots. We want balance across the board, and then we'll try to react to how we're being defended.
Question earlier, after you play this game, you will not play for 7 days, and then whatever day you're done in New York City, you won't play for 9 or 10 days. I would sense the way the last week or two has gone, you kind of look at it, this will help you recharge your battery, even though you want to grind through it. But
Yeah.
Seems like it's going to be something that works in your favor after this game.
I think so. I hope so. I think we need it. I think we need it. And I don't know that I've always felt like that at the end of the year. I feel like that more this year. Maybe it's because, Cata's logging almost 34 minutes in Big Ten play. And, I do think we need that time. We need that time to practice. We also need that time for them to not practice and get their bodies recovered. And then we needed some time to practice and look at some things and tweak some things. I guess it's a given now that we're playing on Friday, right? I think regardless. So that'll be good for us.
Game that the starting lineups were 100% senior night based. How did that play out as the game went on? Because obviously those guys went like 7 minutes without a substitution because they were playing well. How did the success of that first group impact how you tried to substitute the rest of the game, or was that more just kind of matchup stuff with Rutgers?
Yeah, it was more matchup stuff. We started CJ to start the second half, but it was more matchup driven as much as anything. I do think you will see some times where we play like we have later in the year where we play Andrew and CJ together, just because it gives CJ another guy that can play off the ball and be in terms maybe a little more natural in terms of how he would like to play. So we could do that, continue to do that moving forward.
Silly thing, but when the guys come out for starting lineups and they all do a little sort of handshake with Joey, what does Joey give this team? I mean, at the end of the bench there and things like that, and he hits a big three at the end. Yeah. Everybody goes nuts. But what does Joey provide for this team?
Beyond the handshake deal? Okay. I don't know. I don't know how that comes about or how much time they put into that. But it seems like it's choreographed quite a bit. So I think with Joey, he's an invaluable member of our group, and not just invaluable member, but he really does have an influence and a leadership, and not everybody has an influence and a leadership in your team. Well, why does Joey have influence? Well, because I think people recognize that he is doing everything within his power to support his teammates, and he's doing everything within his power to help his teammates to play well. He celebrates with them. He doesn't pout when he's not playing. He doesn't pout when I ask him to stay on the scout team the whole time. And he recognizes his role and has really been a star in his role. And he's an older guy. And he wants Ohio State to win. And I think people look at that. And he's a bright kid, too. I think people look at that, and it allows him to have a level of influence in the locker room that, maybe some walk-ons wouldn't normally have, or in some cases scholarship players don't normally have, because they recognize how unselfish he is.
When you look last time out against Indiana, Cata did a little bit of everything, but he did struggle a little bit on the offensive, going only 5 for 13 from the field. Do you think he's going to have more of a focus on kind of perfecting his shot attempts against Indiana this time, or is it just kind of what came about last time out?
I think he'll play to win, and if that makes sense, and not he doesn't need to try to force something that's not there. He needs to be aggressive and be assertive. McRoberts is a very good defender, and but he'll play to win. He'll do what he needs to do and understand what he needs to do in terms of playing each possession to win. That's what good players do, and that's what smart players do.
Little bit. I know you addressed this earlier in the season, but more stuff's coming out in Yahoo about the state of basketball. How concerned are you that things could really blow up, that it might change, and do you welcome that? Does something need to be fixed?
I don't think there's any question something needs to be fixed in college basketball. What all needs to be fixed in the specifics of that and how you go about it is a conversation that, while I've thought about, I haven't spent the number of hours that you probably need to really figure out what kind of changes are going to be made. You know, as I've said earlier, am I concerned? I'm not, because I can sleep well at night knowing how we've tried to run any program we've been a part of. But you know, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the fallout is and to what level of impact this has. You know, sometimes, quite honestly, I think it's going to be fairly limited, and then there are other times where I feel like it could completely change the face of the game. I don't know where I fall on that.
Real quick follow-up. The article said that it's possible that coaches don't even know. Like if something happened in their program, do you buy that? Can you see a scenario where a coach really doesn't know some of that stuff that's going on, maybe doesn't want to know? I don't know how that works exactly, or is that just not really accurate?
You know, I think there perhaps are some things that a head coach may not be aware of. I'd like to think that I know most of what is going on within our program and within our guys. But, you know, I don't know everybody else's program, and I don't know how they run their program. I do know that it's now an expectation that you know what's going on within your program, specifically as it relates to the details of recruiting and the specific details of who you're recruiting, how the recruiting is going down, who is involved, who are the people around them. Like that stuff now we have to know. And, you know, there's a quick way for someone on our staff to no longer be employed, and I think they understand what that is, and I would hope most people would. All right, thanks.